I'm here today to speak about the really important European technology, the most sexiest European technology, and that is GDPR and cookie banners. So, the talk is what is wrong with them and really what broke them. So, you're all used to a really common situation. You build a website, you've tested it, the website's ready to go, looks good. You run the lighthouse, 90s, 100s, you cheer internally, and then you tell the team. And the marketing team, the favorite team, says, hey, we need to put some scripts on the website. How are we meant to do our job without Google Tag Manager, without our session replays and all of these things? And then the legal teams come about and say, hey, we also need to put a lot of legal tech on there because we don't want to be sued. So we need our terms, conditions, our privacy policies, and the cookie banners. So you go, we've done it. We've put it all on there. I've reran the benchmarks and bang. We've all seen this so many times and it's just, yeah, it sucks as a developer. So I set out on a journey to really, using my phone, going backwards and forwards. I set out on a journey to really work out why. Why do we have to sacrifice compliance for performance? And it really started in my last startup when I closed it down. I looked across the whole company and worked out really what were the biggest problems that I saw, the biggest horizontal problems. And I spent a lot of time wrapping things like the cookie banners, the terms conditions, especially working with non-profits that were very anal about GDPR. So we really had to work it out. And this is one of them things where we've all had this problem when we browse a website in Europe and then the cookie banner pops up and you just need to go on there, you just need to click accept all because we don't know what else we're doing. And I started noticing patterns between all of the CMPs, the consent management platforms, that they all had terrible dashboards. I mean, this is still up there today. It's straight out of the 1990s, 2000s. They also have script tags, them really slow loading IIFE scripts. Many people don't even know how to invoke them. But my favorite one, as always, is they're all no developer needed. That is part of the sales strategy. They're for the marketers, they're for the lawyers, and the developer is always left out. So we really wanted to redefine consent management, really focus on performance, really focus on what it means to be developer first. So we created c15t. And if you don't know what c15t stands for, it's sweatpants. It's very much just like accessibility, A11Y, and c15t is consent management, shortened. So there's many parts to c15t. A lot of people just think, hey, this is a cookie banner. Surely it's not that hard. I could do this in 5 minutes with Claude Opus. And I really want to point out that there's a lot of building blocks that all come together to do it well. And that involves the client side and the server side. So let's start with the client side breakdown. And the number one thing that is most important is for being developer first, you should have best-in-class React components. So very much JSX that you put into your website, and as soon as it loads, you get the cookie banner. And what is also really important about this is it being stylizable. So you need to make sure it fits the theme of the website, no matter if it's something really custom or something quite generic. The cookie banner should look like it's part of the website using our tools, or you could bring your own in like a headless system. Not many CMPs and SDKs have this support. We built it in as default. What else is things like i18n support. So what is really important as well is that as you're in the UK, you see a UK cookie banner in English, or when you're in Italy, you see an Italian cookie banner, or maybe French. i18n is one of them really important things that a lot of CMPs get wrong. You'll go on the website and it will be in Italian, and then the cookie banner is in English, or you're in England and the website is in English. Sorry, you're in something like France and the website's in English, but the cookie banner is shown in French, because these systems are not hooked up, and they're very limited when they're using the script-based approach compared to being bundled directly into the website. So we're just going to accept that. And then we're going to move on to the consent manager. This is another one of these really important first-class supporting things. So as you know, if you click accept all, then you'll never see this screen. But if you want to customize the defaults, then this is what you click. And why is this really important is it links in to the other parts of your systems. So for example, every single marketing script should be also tagged. If it should be hooked up to analytics, or it should be hooked up to marketing, and it should only fire when that category is given. So the consent manager is super important in that. And we're just going to click customize. It should be acceptable, but we'll move on. And another really interesting one is the frame. So again, talking about this consent management solution, not many people realize that all their third-party components, like YouTube, needs to actually be disabled depending on what consent. So for example, if you've not given consent for analytics, I think it is, then YouTube is disabled by default. And then you click it and we get a little video. So the very final thing that's so important in building a front-end SDK for cookie banners and consent management is the ability to directly include different rendering hooks. So depending on your scripts, how they're loaded, depending on your functionality, you can easily say, hey, has this person give essentials? Has this person give analytics? Has this person give marketing? And we thought it was really important to build this in as a default solution. So you can go really customized with complex if, else, ands. So that's a really brief overview of the client-side system. And there's so much more that we can tackle, and so much more that's coming in a big update very soon called 2.0, all the years of learning, only one. But the second biggest thing is like a server. Why is the server important? It's also because to get the best experience as a developer, but also to your end users, you need to have a server. So what is that important? Is it starts with geolocation. So for example, if you're in Germany, you should see a cookie banner. But then if you're in the UK, you should see one. But then if your users are in America, the default thing, and a lot of other CMPs do this, is to show the cookie banner. That custom built one without a server will show the cookie banner. This way with geolocation will no longer show the cookie banner, and it will only show it in territories that need it, like GDPR. Not Australia, definitely for the Netherlands. So then the next thing is also back to the side on the client side was language support. So loading every single language in the European Union would be a massive amount of strings. So as well as looking at the location, we also work out the languages to send down the wire to make sure the initial bundle is as small and as fast as possible, only bringing in the right content at the right time. So for example, if the phone, the device, is in Germany and the website is in German, then you should see a German cookie banner. But if the device is in Germany, but the website is in English, then obviously you should see an English cookie banner. Multiple providers get this wrong, and it provides a terrible user experience. So one of the big things that we haven't touched on with the backend is one of the biggest things that you have to do to be GDPR compliant is store the consents in a database. So we set out to support databases across the board from your Postgres, MySQL, SQLite. We made c15t to be open source, self-hostable if you would like, air-gapped. And these are obviously all the databases that we support. We also obviously then also support the ORMs that go with that. Drizzle, Prisma, TypeORM, and Geasely. And if you don't have an SDK, say your website's in Ruby or something that we don't support yet, then you can also use our open API specification. Again, coming back down to the core principles of being open source and providing the best developer experience. But the really final thing, and we're spending more time on this year, is Node SDKs. So you can actually keep track of the consents, build your own dashboards, understand the biggest differences between all the systems, and that's simple SDKs like this. So that's a quick overview of the front end side of consent plus the back end infrastructure of the server. And the server is one of these really important things. And we know that it's very important to us from the European Union, from Europe, not European Union, we left that, can't talk about that, is that we realize that the data sovereignty is not the biggest thing. It's not, well, it is the biggest thing. It's not important for us to hold that data and say, that's what you pay us for. So we made it completely self-hostable. But if you don't want to be spinning up your own APIs and databases and want to have us handle all that migration, then we can create a consent. Consent is the wrapper around c15t. Much like you have Vercel to Next.js, you have c15t to consent. And one of the biggest things that we've talked about in the last talk as well is, what about the marketing scripts? What about your post hogs, your Google Tag Managers, your Google Analytics? How do they actually come into it? So the cookie banner is the first part, but the connecting system is also the scripts. So we built in best-in-class support for all of the major scripts. Things like PostHog, Metapixel, Google Tag Manager, all of these are loaded in a type-safe, asynchronous way that no longer blocks the thread. But the most important thing is reduced configurability. So as a developer, you putting PostHog on your website, we will automatically tag that with the right categories. So you don't need to worry about, is this analytics? Is this marketing? Is this, I forgot the other ones, functionality? We will automatically handle that. So we're supporting a lot of the bigger scripts, but as we're working with more and more agencies, enterprises, we're expanding our script support. So if there's not one that we don't support yet, we will, as soon as we get an issue or a PR for it. So one of the important things is obviously how it plugs into your code base, and that's with the script provider. This is actually out of date with 2.0, but that's not out yet. So we get to see that. So the last thing, is the most important thing, is we've talked about a developer-first SDK for cookie banners, European technologies, consent. But one of the questions I get asked a lot, and one of the questions that Guillermo Rauch, one of our biggest advocates in the US, says to me is, how fast is it? Every time he goes on a website, the speed is the problem. So we had to work out, how are we actually going to solve this? Can we benchmark cookie banners? And the answer was yes. We built a tool to track the cookie banners and to track how long they took to load, pop up on the screen, and track the milliseconds, because this was really important for us as well, because as we was, trying to push the edge, making it as fast as possible, we would ask the questions ourselves, is this actually making it faster? How does geolocation by server-side rendering affect it to being client-side rendered and then pulled from the client? So we created Cookie Bench for that. And when we put that together, we decided to then benchmark the competitors as well. And we can see that most of them are really, really slow. And we also put a scoring system together. So the scoring system on Cookie Bench is what we would class as the best-in-class blueprint for how to do consent management on the internet. And then, again, rank all of the competitors, the MPs, on that. Again, if they would make theirs 10 times better, then we would put them on top of the list. But it is what it is. So one of the most important statistics was that our cookie banners show in 89 milliseconds. And comparing that to some of the leading CMPs, it is 7.9 times faster. So every time your page loads, you are also loading these CMPs with their waterfalls and their legacy support, and 7.9 times faster. So the closest second were at least 1.9 times faster. And we can go even further. We're not done on this optimization point yet. So as a quick overview on everything we've said, the biggest important thing to this speed is that c15t is bundled inside your application. It's not a third-party script that gets loaded and blocking everything. It is native. And that means that there's 0 third-party requests. Everything is first-party versus an average of 5.6. So putting c15t in our quick cookie bench, we would see that we come right at the top with a 95 score and 89 milliseconds with a 0 bytes network impact. And comparing that to everybody's favorite greatest CMP of all time, OneTrust, we crush them. So you can find c15t and all the source code on GitHub. We're currently just reached 1.5 thousand GitHub stars with 200,000 downloads a week now. So we're growing really, really fast. And something that is really important is if you have a Next.js, Gatsby, Vite website, you can literally go to your terminal today, run the CLI, and we will automatically inject all the best practices, the consent banner, the styling, with much more to come. I think it's really important to end on these slides to not forget what we're up to here. And we don't want to teach the regulation. We don't want to teach you GDPR. We don't want to teach you CCPA. We see them as too low level. Just like when you need to make a payment from the UK to America, you don't have to worry about the banks when it comes to Stripe. We see these frameworks as low level. So we don't teach the regulation, we teach the abstractions. Regulations are changing globally, and it can be very finite. It could be a court case in Germany that changes how consent banners look, to the district attorney in Utah making a decision. That is what we are for with consent. So very last things here is that we know that it's very standard in Europe to say the EU is killing our innovation with regulation. And we set it out as a goal to try and solve this, try and be the best in class tech around GDPR, CCPA, with all these laws, no longer letting the marketers or the lawyers control it. We, the developers, know how to do this. Trust us. And closing out for all the links, it's c15t.com, cookiebench.com, and consent.io. We're hiring pretty soon. We have a lot of amazing news that I can't talk about yet. So that's a quick link. Yes, don't forget a photo. We got someone excited here, getting a phone close. And you can find me on X and LinkedIn for big QR codes if anyone wants to follow me. Perfect. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll close this out.